Some 600 people have been detained in an Israeli prison in the southern town of Beersheba. From the information we have, we understand that dozens of them have already been deported. Others are currently making their way to Ben Gurion International Airport. Now, those who are still being detained are those who are refusing to reveal their identity. They have 72 hours in which to appeal to an Israeli court not to be deported. We're being told that nobody so far has been arrested. While all of this is going on, international human rights activists have criticized the way Israel has dealt with the whole matter. Firstly, the detainees were handcuffed with plastic handcuffs, and this is the way that they were processed. Secondly, there was no communication with them. None of them have received any kind of legal representation. Now, this view has been echoed by the Turkish Foreign Ministry. It says that it has no communication and has not been allowed to have any communication, whether through the telephone or in person, with any of these passengers. Turkey is currently sending 3 planes to pick up the injured that suffered those attacks on Monday. At the same time, we know that the cargo is making its way to the Gaza Strip. Israel saying that this will be the final destination of the 10,000 tons that were on that flotilla. And we're also hearing from Palestinian officials that some 5 trucks of cargo entered the Gaza Strip in the last few hours. Israeli army officers today were also saying that they had considered stopping the engines of the Marmara. Now, that was the Turkish vessel where all the violence took place. They said that they had decided against this because it would take too long to bring the ship to shore, and they were also worried that there was not enough food and water on board for the passengers. So this is part of the justification that the Israelis are giving as to what happened yesterday on that ship. We're also hearing from the Israelis that one of the Turkish organizations that was involved in the organization of this whole flotilla, the Turkish IHH, is a terrorist organization with ties to Hamas and Al-Qaeda. Israel's deputy ambassador to the United Nations had this to say.
If indeed it were a real humanitarian-only mission, the organizers would have accepted weeks ago, during the planned stages of this flotilla, the offer by the Israeli authorities to transfer the aid through the port of ASHDOD to Gaza through the existing overland crossings in accordance with established procedures.
Now, since yesterday, we've seen protests and demonstrations throughout the Arab and European world, many demonstrators taking to the streets of the cities in which they live. There, they're holding placards and banners showing support for Gaza, showing support for Palestine, and criticizing Israel. Many of these protesters calling the Israeli action criminal. There were some scuffles in some cities where some demonstrators threw stones and bottles, and police were forced to use tear gas. We're likely to see this kind of outrage and these kind of demonstrations continue for some time still.
RT's PAULA SLIER right there. Let's assess this story in more detail now. We're joined by historian and author Tariq Ali, who's live for us in London. Hello, Mr. Ali. So Israel says it's just trying to protect its borders and citizens, and that the flotilla was on a mission to discredit the state. What's your take on this?
Well, it's an utterly pathetic argument because Israel's borders aren't in the middle of the sea. Essentially, they boarded the flotilla in international waters. The flotilla was carrying humanitarian aid to Gaza. There is no other way to get free humanitarian aid to Gaza, since the Israelis and the Egyptians do not allow convoys to go on land. So this was a humanitarian mission which the Israelis attacked, and they killed people.
Do you think Israel should apologize for this?
At the very least, it should apologize. Apologies are not enough, quite honestly. I mean, the fact that the United Nations Security Council, which would have condemned any other country apart from the United States, which had behaved like this, is not even finding it in itself to pass a strong condemnation of Israel is grotesque. It shows that the Security Council essentially does what the United States wants it to do.
Well, the UN Security Council is calling for a credible, impartial and transparent investigation. But is this going far enough, do you think? And do incidents like this... So I was just going to say, do incidents like this prove that the UN body really has no teeth?
I don't think the UN has any teeth, and even if they have what they call a credible impartial inquiry, as with the Goldstone Commission report into Gaza, the Israelis will denounce anyone who sits on this inquiry as an enemy of the Israeli state, so it won't get very far. You don't really need an inquiry. We know what happened. The Israeli state decided to stop a flotilla carrying humanitarian aid reaching Gaza. In order to carry out that mission, they boarded these ships and they killed 19 people, and they're holding the others captive. What else do we need to know? The thing is, the Israelis feel they can get away with this. They can get away with attacking Lebanon. They can get away with laying siege to Gaza, assaulting Gaza, because the United States and the other powers don't do anything about it. So nothing much is going to happen, I'm afraid.
Well, just where does this leave any hopes for lasting peace in the Middle East?
It doesn't have any hope at all. I mean, as long as the Israelis continue to occupy Palestinian lands, as long as the Israelis keep Gaza under siege, as long as they don't retreat back to the 67 frontiers, there is not going to be any peace in the Middle East. The two-state solution is dead. It's a joke. So either you have a single-state solution or the Israelis move back to the 67 frontiers, and they're prepared to do neither. So this dreadful situation where the Palestinians have been victimized now for decades is going to carry on, and Israeli propaganda spokesmen are going to appear on Western channels and saying Israel, a nuclear power with nuclear submarines and offensive weapons, is really the victim. It's just not credible.
Well, it certainly does seem that the majority of the world is united in condemning this basically an attack by Israel. Tariq Ali, historian and author, live from London, thank you.
Thank you.